Hello, scope friends. Seriously, I gotta work out this salutation thing. I'm open to suggestions. Well, anyway, welcome to the actual first ever Vazen 50mm review. I'm hyped. This lens was hinted along the announcement for the 85mm, and it's been slowly getting to the market, but no big portals covered it yet. The 50mm is Vazen's second lens in their full-frame lineup, following the 85mm I reviewed in September of 2020. That's the mind-blowing fact right here. I'm shooting at 50mm open gate on the S1H with 1.8 times compression, so this feels a lot wider than a regular 50mm in video mode. The nearest option to this kind of coverage in anamorphic lenses are Cooke's 1.8 times anamorphic/I at roughly $35,000. And before you try to argue for DIY setups, I can't clear 50mm open gate using the famous Kowa B&H. Shooting with the Vazen 50mm was not as easy as I thought. And that was mostly because 50mm on open gate is really wide. So I had a hard time nailing focus. The setup is also heavy, and I thought I could wing it handheld. It was not as smooth as I hoped. These challenges are more of newbie mistakes on my part than the lens's fault. Looking at this 50mm construction, I see a lot of similarities with the 85mm, which is good. But I also see Vazen has addressed lots of notes on it, like the font choices, the overall text design, and most importantly, the markings are now in feet and inches instead of the previous fractions of feet. Good job there. They also got rid of that carbon fiber accent at the front that we had on the 85mm, which looked pretty odd. They didn't, however, flatten this bubbly lens cap that makes the lens wobbly when you place it facing down. Sad. As you would expect from a cinema lens, iris and focus rings are geared and offer a nice resistance. Focus throw is around 120 degrees and minimum focus sits at 1.1 meters or 3'6". Iris goes from T16 to T2.1, and depth of field just feels shallower when shooting on the open gate mode since the image is so large. The front has a diameter of 95mm for clip-on matte boxes, and you get 86mm filter threads. The lens weighs 1.5 kilograms or 3.5 pounds, which is not that heavy. When I throw it on the S1H, this still looks like a small setup, but it's actually pretty hefty to lug around. The lens comes with a PL mount and an additional EF mount and some shims, so you can use it on multiple cameras. And this baby is priced at $8,000, which by no means is on a budget. Unless you're comparing it to the Cooks that I mentioned earlier. In that case, $8,000 is pocket change. And you can already order it through B&H or Vazen's website. While the lens is not super sharp, even when you get it right, I feel critical focus is extra hard to nail down without an external monitor. On the flare field, this 50mm matches the rest of the Vazen set, with nice blue streaks that show up rather easily and feel good. I also noticed some white-ish streaks on the sides, so I went investigating. In this shot, these streaks are actually reflections from a window outside of the frame, as you can see here. If I block the left side of the frame, the reflections disappear. I don't think this is intentional, and I don't know exactly what is causing it, but I can see complaints about it. I do enjoy it though. For coverage, if you got a sharp eye, you might have noticed the aspect ratio of this episode is a bit wider than usual. And that is because I'm shooting everything 6K open gate 3x2 with the 50mm, which yields a 2.7:1 aspect ratio. Unusual? Yes. Undesirable? Definitely not. I can easily crop down to 2.39:1, but if you also enjoy the huge frame, hit that like button. This much distortion can be easily fixed in post, and if you're interested in a tool for that, look up our channel's memberships. At the Super 35 level, you get downloadable assets, and that's what you're looking for in this case. So on the 85mm, we had a noticeable amount of focus breathing, and that does not happen here. Like, I'm racking this all the way, and you can barely see the whole image scale up or down. It's very, very, very subtle. I like this. This is very classy. I believe this to be related to the focusing method used on Vazen lenses, which we called the linear compensator. You can learn more about it in the Anamorphic Cookbook, Module 2. You get the extra vibe of how shallow depth of field is here. But the tiny camera screen and the strong squeeze factor required an external monitor that I wasn't carrying on the day I shot the tests. Definitely something for a next shoot. The Vazen 50mm is a unique offering. It is definitely not cheap, but we're starting to get lenses I'd love to have for my regular shoots. I'd use this over Sirui in a heartbeat. But then, can I justify paying 10 Sirui lenses for this one lens? One more cool thing I can do with this lens is mount it sideways on the camera for portrait mode shooting on open gate, and then de-squeeze to 6:5 aspect ratio. It's a little bit wider than a square, and the picture feels huge. It's super annoying to deal with the squeeze on set for this though. I'm happy to see Vazen is taking feedback and changing their lenses. I think their next thing is RF versions for the MFT set, and I'd love to see an L version too, since RF and L share the same flange distance. On this full frame set, they're slated to release a 110mm lens next. I'd love to see if they can tackle a 35mm though. I hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure to hit that subscribe button before you go so you can get updates on new lenses and new anamorphic shooting techniques. I hope you learned something new and that you have a great week. I'm Chit Verhellings, and I'm out.